Welcome back to the Federal Retirement Show. I am your host, Val Majewski with American Benefits Exchange. Appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to view our content, to view our show. That's what it's there for. It's for you, the federal employee who is looking for information regarding benefits and retirement so you can make the best decisions going forward. And I get notes all the time. I just got an email over the weekend from a federal employee that said, I'm very frustrated. I'm very discouraged. I'm very disappointed in the government. Again, this is what she was saying, but disappointed that a lot of this information is not provided to us, or we're being given information piece by piece by piece, and it's not really comprehensive. It's not completely put together. And I appreciated the note and the honesty because that's what I'm trying to do. That's what this show and what our organization does, is provide information to federal employees. Fill in the blanks, make sure you know everything it is you need to know about your situation, about benefits and retirement, so you can go through your working career and make the best decisions along the way. Set yourself up properly so you can retire how you want, when you want, with the lifestyle that you're looking to retire with. So you hear me say that all the time. If you watch the show, I apologize for reiterating it, but if it is your first time, you've caught us at a great point, because we're going back to the basics. Now, what does that mean? We're going back to the beginning. These were episodes that we did way back when, but just kind of rekindling it, giving you some updated information, sharing a fresh look at it, and going back to the basics. Last episode, we talked about retirement. We talked about going about the retirement requirements, and we talked about the retirement calculation. Today, we're going back to the basics when it comes to FEGLI, your federal employee group life insurance. So let's dive into today's topic, and we're going to go back to the basics when it comes to your FEGLI. So what is FEGLI? As I said, it is federal employees group life insurance. It's a group plan, as it insinuates, right? Everybody's lumped together, whether you're healthy, sick, smoker, non-smoker, male, female, everybody is lumped together. It's administered by MetLife. That's who's under contract with OPM. Most people would recognize MetLife, Snoopy and the blimp, the MetLife blimp. But that's who is administering your FEGLI program. And there are 4 parts to FEGLI. There's basic, and there's options A, B, and C. You must have basic in order to have any of the optional coverages. And we're going to go over these, as well as go through an example of a federal employee that has these different things to see, so you can kind of compare it to your situation and see if you need any assistance. So basic FEGLI, what is it? This is something that federal employees are automatically covered under when you first get hired, unless you explicitly state in writing by the end of the first pay period that you do not want it. You can opt out right away. Most federal employees will have basic. Why? Because the costs are relatively low. You pay 16 cents per pay period per $1,000 worth of coverage that you have. And again, we're going to go over an example. I'll show you how this works. Coverage. Now, how much coverage do you have when it comes to your FEGLI basic? It's essentially one multiple of your salary. Now, we take your total base pay plus locality, round that number up to the next $1,000, add 2 more thousand to that, and that is your total basic FEGLI coverage amount. Again, there's a cost for that. We just mentioned 16 cents per thousand per pay period, but this is how you get your basic coverage amount. There is an extra benefit for those that are under the age of 45. Basic offers some extra free insurance. How do we calculate that? If you look at this chart, based on your age, you take that factor and you multiply that by your basic FEGLI coverage and add that to the total. So if you're age 43, you're going to get a 20% bump in your coverage when it comes on top of your FEGLI basic. Notice how this is a decreasing extra benefit and ceases to exist at age 45. But for those under 45, you get a little bit of extra coverage. For those under 35 or 35 and under, you get essentially a doubling, right? The factor is 1%, or not 1%, is 1.0, meaning they will take whatever your FEGLI basic is, multiply it by 1, and then add that to the total. So there's a doubling effect. In retirement, with your basic, you have essentially 4 options when it comes to this. Now, one of them is pretty simple. You can cancel it. I don't see a lot of federal employees do this, but you can certainly cancel coverage altogether, not keep it with you in retirement. When you do fill out your retirement paperwork, however, they're going to give you the three choices. Which continuation of basic FEGLI do you want to take? And you have three choices if you want to keep something. There's one that has you retain 25% of your coverage. It's called the 75% reduction option. You can keep 50%. That's called the 50% reduction option. And you can keep all of it, which is a 0% reduction option. These are the three. You can keep 25%, keep 50, or keep it all. Just out of curiosity, if you're watching this and you're wondering which one should I choose, which one do you think is the most popular option that federal employees take or federal retirees take? Give you a second. If you thought or said the 25% option, you'd be correct. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on all of these. I'll just let you know that the reason that the 75% reduction option or keeping 25% is the most popular is because this is the only one that will be free in retirement. So in retirement or at age 65, whichever happens later, this FEGLI basic amount will be free and start to reduce, and you get to keep 25% of your basic FEGLI for free in retirement. That's why it's the most popular. We can go over your individual situation and see which one is right for you. Now, if you have basic and maybe you chose these optional coverages, I want to let you know what those options are. If you are not familiar with the optional coverage or do not know if you have these optional coverages, we need to talk because we can look at your leave and earnings statement, your paycheck stub, and just a rule of thumb is if you do not have it or you're not paying for it, you do not have it. If you are not paying for it, you do not have it. The government gives you some things for free, but they're not going to give you all of these options for free. So if you're not paying for it, you do not have it. We can decipher what those codes are in your paycheck stub so you can see which coverages you elected and which coverages you still have. And what do I mean by that is because if you did not make a change from now or from when you got hired until now, then those selections have remained exactly the same. So understand that if situations change, circumstances change, your life has changed since you first got hired and your life insurance need has changed, then those have remained exactly the same. The government doesn't automatically change those for you. So you want to know what you have? We got to take a deeper dive into your situation. Go to our website, www.federalretirementshow.com. Fill out the form. We will be in touch in order to go over not only just your FEGLI, but all of your benefits and retirement situation. Okay, let's go over the optional coverages. There's options A, B, and C. Option A is the easiest one to understand. This is just an extra $10,000 worth of insurance. It's also known as standard optional insurance. I said $10,000. There's very low costs for this. And just like all the other options, premiums do increase. Costs do increase every 5 years. This one begins at age 40 is when you'll start seeing increases. As I mentioned, we're going to go over an example of this. If you want to keep your option A in retirement, unlike basic, you don't have multiple choices. If you want to keep option A in retirement, it's one option. It will become free at the age of 65 or retirement, whichever is later, and it will reduce and ultimately stop at 25%, or in this case, an extra $2,500 that you would take with you for free for the rest of your life. Option B, now this is the biggest one. This is the one that causes the biggest concern for federal employees. Why? Because you can get up to 5 times your salary. You can choose between 1 to 5 multiples of your salary in additional life insurance on top of basic, on top of option A. Premiums do increase every 5 years starting at age 40. We'll go over an example and you can see exactly how that works. Option C. Now, up to this point, as a federal employee, your basic, option A and option B, they are all on you, the federal employee. Option C is the first one now that is on spouse and children. So this is where you can get up to 5 units of coverage. Option C is known as family optional insurance. You can get up to 5 units. I've seen this get confused where people have told me, I have 5 times my salary for me, and then I have 5 times my salary for my spouse. And that is incorrect. You have up to 5 units of coverage for option C. What is a unit? A unit is $5,000 for a spouse, max coverage then $25,000, and it's $2,500 for each child. A child is under the age of 22 and not married, and the max coverage for them is $12,500. So again, it's up to 5 units, not 5 multiples for option C. A big thing with FEGLI that I want to remind you of is make sure that your beneficiaries know that you have this. Why? Because if you have additional life insurance, if you've had private life insurance, what do you probably have? You have policy documents. You have papers that you can put in with all of your other important documents, and somebody would find those. Worst case scenario, they didn't know that you had it. They find it, and they can go through the process of filing a claim. Your family members may not know that you have this. Plus, you don't have a tangible policy document that's going to be there that you can put with your important things that they're going to stumble upon. If they don't know you had it, then they're not going to be able to file a claim. And trust me, the Office of FEGLI is not in the business of just sending out checks when you pass away. There has to be a claim filed. So make sure your beneficiaries know that you have this. Number one, know who your beneficiary is. Who did you elect? Because if you haven't made any changes, your beneficiary is exactly the same person that you set it up to be when you first started working. Make any updates as needed if you realize that you need to make a change. And I would recommend you print out a claim form and leave it with your important documents. Maybe put a sticky note on there at least if there's no instructions and say, hey, I have this, file a claim in case something happens to me. Because that way people will at least know. You don't want them guessing, hey, what did mom and dad, what did my brother or sister, what do they have in place? And trying to scramble. Make it easy for them in this regard. Print out that claim form. If you need a copy of the claim form, we can help you with that as well. Go to the website, fill out the form. And when we do talk, say, hey, I'm looking for the FEGLI claim form. So let's look at this example of a federal employee. Okay, we got a 43-year-old female federal employee making $97,000 plus. And let's say she had everything. Options A, 5 times B, 5 units of C. And we want to look at how does this change? What does the coverage look like today? How do things change during the career? What does it look like in retirement? Costs, all of those things, and then the options so that you can see what this person would have when it's all said and done. And you can compare this to your personal situation as we go through. You can also request that we review your personal situation by going to the website, filling out that form. Okay, so just on the high level, somebody has everything basic. How did we calculate the basic? You take the base rate of pay, in this case was $97,000 plus, round up to $98,000 and add $2 more thousand worth of coverage. So this person has $100,000 worth of FEGLI basic. We mentioned all 3 optional coverages. So option A, you recall from a few slides back, that's just an extra $10,000. Option B, 5 times the salary. How do we get there? Take 97 plus that she makes, round up to 98,000, multiply that by 5. So she would have an additional $490,000 of additional coverage. All of those basic option A and option B are on her, the federal employee. Then option C, this is spouse and child coverage, as we talked about, 5 units, 25,000 on a spouse, 12,500 on each eligible child. Now, it's important to note, I said a child has to be under the age of 22 and not married. It doesn't matter how many kids you have. Each child that is eligible will have the same amount of coverage on them. And once they attain the age of 22, they will no longer be covered. The cost will remain the same along the way. Just that child will no longer have coverage. It's not convertible. It's not transferable. They'd have to look at private insurance if they want coverage beyond that. Okay, so what does the cost look like for all of these things? So we went over the coverages. Now what's the cost? We said basic, she has $100,000. It's 16 cents per thousand per pay period. In this case, it would be $16 a pay period. Pretty easy math for us. That's why I did it that way. $16 a pay period for that. Like I said, basic is relatively inexpensive compared to private life insurance. I highly recommend. This is just my general recommendation. This is my opinion that federal employees keep basic along through their working career. Extra benefit in this case, this person is under the age of 45. So what extra coverage would they have for free? Looking at the chart, the factor for a 43-year-old is 0.2 or 20%. She would get 20% more or an extra $20,000 on top of her basic coverage. So now the total there with basics, $120,000 at the age of 43. At 41, it would be only 10% more. And at age 45, it would go away. So just understand that extra benefit is free for those that are under the age of 45. Okay, option A. Option A is an extra $10,000. Looking at the chart, pretty simple. A 43-year-old is paying 30 cents a pay period for this coverage. Not a ton of coverage, but also not a ton of cost, right? And you can see that cost goes up every 5 years starting at age 40, caps out at $6 a pay period at age 60, and will eventually become free if a person keeps it into retirement beyond the age of 65. So as I said, at age 65 or at retirement, whichever is later, this will become free, reduced down. Person can walk away with an extra $2,500 for free for the rest of their life. Here is the biggest one. Biggest one is option B. Now, in this example, this person has $490,000 of additional coverage. If you can see my chart here, what is it that they're currently paying? $14.70 a pay period. That is relatively cheap. That's a decent cost right there for life insurance. But what's the problem with option B? This is not where that cost stays. It does not lock in. You don't have the option to lock it in. If you want to keep option B, you have to keep paying the cost increases. So as a 43-year-old, relatively inexpensive. I mean, it's on par with what private life insurance looks like for a 43-year-old. But what happens at the age of 60? Just a few short years, 17 years later, they will be paying $196 per pay period. That's not per month, per pay period for the same coverage. Now, that's not assuming there's pay raises along the way and bumps in pay, promotions, COLAs, whatever it might be. This is just going from $1,470 a pay period to $196 a pay period at the age of 60. So if you want to not pay these cost increases over time, I would recommend, just in my opinion, looking at other options out there that will save you a ton of money compared to sticking with option B over the course of your career. Because what would happen at this point? She's 60 years old and now is like, whoa, this is getting really expensive. I need to get rid of this. Well, her options might be limited. At 60, we're getting a little older. Cost of insurance is higher out there. Plus, health might be an issue. So while you're younger, while you're healthier, it's more beneficial for you to start looking at other options. Again, go to our website, fill out the form. We can definitely assist and point you in the right direction. Option C, this is the spouse coverage. So 5 units is $25,000 for the spouse, $12,500 for each eligible child. This is costing this person $1.85 a pay period. It's not a ton of extra coverage, not a whole lot of cost either. The cost does not go up crazy. It does go up, but it's not going to hit the bank as hard as option B does, right? So if we're looking at option C, well, here's the problem with it. It's not a lot of coverage. You can get up to 5 times your salary for you, but only up to 5 units of coverage, $25,000 for a spouse. There's a pretty big imbalance there. I know if something happened to my spouse, $25,000 definitely not going to cover it. So, looking at options there to provide more coverage for your spouse is generally recommended. That way you guys are on par, or at least have a healthier balance when it comes to life insurance coverage on each of you. So just to review your FEGLI, right? FEGLI, we're going back to the basics, and I know I went through that information relatively quick, but I want to share with you just a review and hit the highlights when it comes to FEGLI. Why? Because this is extremely important because you have options that you may or may not know about. You have costs that you want to find out where they're going to and what they're covering and what are you paying for. You want to understand how to be the best or most efficient when it comes to your money and what's coming out of your paycheck. You just want to let it go willy-nilly and just say, it's the government plan, I'm sticking with it. No, if you have ways that you can save money or put better things in place, you should know about that. So let's review. FEGLI, what is it? And what do we recommend here? FEGLI Basic has low costs. I generally recommend that federal employees that have basic keep it throughout their working career, and then they can even keep it in retirement. Generally, I said the 75% reduction option is the most popular because it is the only one that will be free. So you can end up walking away with 25% of whatever you retire with, and as far as your FEGLI Basic, for free for the rest of your life. So that life insurance amount should be enough to maybe cover your burial or final wishes, final expenses, whatever it might be. And hey, the government doesn't give you much for free. They want to give you some free life insurance for the rest of your life in retirement. A lot of folks take them up on it. That's why this is the most popular. The extra benefit we said with basic goes away at age 45, but while you're under the age of 45, you get a little bit of extra free insurance on your basic from the government. Option A, just a flat extra $10,000. Not a whole lot of cost involved with this. So most people that I talk to that have basic and option A, I recommend in general keeping it. You'll also be able to keep some free life insurance with option B in retirement, right? It works just like that free option with basic. Option B, we mentioned, can get up to 5 times your salary, but the downfall is it can get very expensive as you get older and go through your working career. You got to pay attention to this because the office of FEGLI, let's in that example that we talked about, when the person is paying $14.70 now at age 43, but at age 60 is going to pay $196 a pay period, you're not going to get a letter in the mail. You're not going to get a birthday card from the office of FEGLI or OPM and say, hey, you're 60 years old. Congratulations. You made it. This is awesome. Happy birthday. But just want to let you know the cost of your option B more than doubled as a result of turning 60. Again, happy birthday. You're not going to get that. So you have to be aware of the increases. You have to be aware of what's going on. Pay attention to your paycheck stub. See if you notice any changes when you hit these certain 5-year benchmarks. If so, you can take control of that and help yourself be a little more effective or efficient with what you're paying for. Option C, we mentioned the spouse and child insurance. It's up to 5 units. It's not 5 multiples, but there's a big imbalance here. You can get such a lot of life insurance on yourself, but not so much when it comes to your spouse and kids. There could be some better options out there for you if you're interested. And then I mentioned options in retirement with basic and option A. Most federal employees keep the free insurance. That's just a general recommendation. But when it comes to B and C, it's all or nothing. You can keep whatever you have with option B and C. You just have to continue to pay the cost increases over time. So a lot of folks that I talk to, and this doesn't mean you have to do it, but I'm just saying a lot of folks that I talk to end up canceling B and C in retirement because they do not want to keep paying the cost increases over time. So understand, we're going to utilize this series to go back to the basics and give you a baseline understanding of particular topics that we like to hit on with federal government employees, because these are the things that we believe you need to know so you can educate yourself and make the best decisions going through your working career. So as always, I really do appreciate you viewing our content, watching our show. If you do like what you're seeing, subscribe to our content, get notified when a new episode pops up. Share this with friends and colleagues and other people that you believe need to know this information. I get that all the time. It's a lot more than I anticipated, so I thank you for it. But hey, I passed your information to so-and-so. I told them about the podcast. The next thing I know, that person's reaching out to me saying, hey, I binge listened to, not watched, but binge listened to a number of your episodes while driving in the car and love the content, got some questions, love to get a benefits review done. I hear that all the time, and it's shocking and it's humbling as well, because I did not realize the response that we would get. People really love the information that we're putting out there. So thank you for that. Thank you for your dedication to the show, for watching, for sharing, for liking, for subscribing, all of that. And we look forward to seeing you on a future episode.